This is, I'm glad you all can make it here to the, recording from your armchair at home just seemed like a cutesy little title for it. But, the idea was some people will come in here to the studio to record their shows, but some people want to record their stuff at home. Quandt's been doing a podcast for
about a year and a half, plus I've been recording video tutorials on YouTube and such for almost 4 years now.
Okay.
So
he's
a
got
lot of the same stuff.
A lot of experience with this. And is it you're on live speaker? Is that the title?
That's the title of the show.
Okay, that he does. The podcast that he's doing is with a guy out of Portland, Oregon, and then out of Ireland.
Yeah.
So it's a neat little piece where they're going over a lot of, the new technologies and such. But since he's had the most experience at it, I thought it would be, he's coming in the most technically savvy. It's a good idea for some people who do want to do their, may record their show at home, and then, again, we'll set it up via a Dropbox account or something else so that people can, they can upload it, and then we can download it into the server for playback. So, without any further ado, you've got it, Al.
All right, thanks. All right, I'm Alan Quandt. Some of you guys I've met through the meetings and everything. I'm actually a web programmer, is what I do for a living. But I'm also a musician, and I like gadgets and learning how to use gadgets, and that's kind of how I got here. And I mentioned to some of you that I am not a professional at this. So some of the technical stuff I'm going to leave out because I might be wrong or might be right, I don't know. But I know how to plug everything together, and I know how to get audio into the computer. And can you guys see good? All right, cool. Everything I have here is this is kind of the max. You guys don't need all this stuff. I've collected this stuff over the years. Honestly, all you really need is a computer and just a simple microphone. This one plugs in USB, so you don't even need to plug in audio or anything like that. All the way up to having a mixer and audio interface and a fancy condenser microphone here with a Sweetwater boom stand. The other component would be the computer and then some sort of software. It was suggested that we talk about Audacity, which is a free software that I believe is for Mac as well. I don't know if anybody knows. I don't do Macs. Is it? Okay. I've actually never used this. I just installed it yesterday, but it should work the same as pretty much anything else I've used. I'm going to do this pretty non-structured, so raise hands, ask me questions.
Audacity's got to be the same that we're using in the studio, correct?
I believe so, yeah. So that should be nice. And it's a multi-track recorder, so you could just record your voice, or you could actually add in music and layers and things like that and scoot things around, make things nice, or you could just wing it all on the fly.
Where do you go to get Audacity? What's the URL?
That I will have to get for you. I don't know if I'm connected to the web here.
You just put Audacity in there in your browsers?
Yeah, search for Audacity and it should come up.
Audacity.com.
Yeah, it's probably .com or .org or something.
I went and loaded that.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Just went to audacity.com.
Okay.
Easy enough. I think they even have a Linux version if people use Linux. The show I did, or I've done, the podcast I've done with people across the country and across the world, we were using Skype, and I don't have everything that I was doing for that here today. It gets really confusing because you have to route things from the computer back into the mixer, back into the computer, and do some really screwy stuff to kind of get the illusion that you've got a nice call center phone thing set up when you really don't. So we can use this, and this is going to sound like it costs, probably about $15, I think, maybe less. It's going to sound more like you're on a phone, pretty low quality, but it's speaking. So sometimes you can get away with that. I've got a very deep voice, and I sound awful on these because of that. I sound really weird, whereas something like that picks up my voice very well. You could even do something like this here. These are wireless headphones with a mic. You look really cool when you wear them. And it's just got a little, my favorite word in technology, dongle, that plugs in there. And turn them on and you're good to go, lights on. You don't hear in real time. This is good for Skype, really is what they're meant for, but you can use them to record. You got the microphone right by your face. However, if anybody's ever heard mouth sounds on a microphone, these will pick up that, and that's not very good. What's that?
If you have 2 or 3 people that were around.
2 or 3 people, you're definitely going to need to do the mixer setup. With this, you can't get, the way this works, you'd only be able to do one at a time with these.
Well, there's a USB option for like a round table kind of deal.
Is there?
Yeah, the Blue Yeti Pro, set right in the middle, set it to on
Right.
the shelf.
Yeah, you could do that, that's true.
It's really good microphone to pick up
Mhm.
round
Yeah.
table discussion.
So that's definitely an option, but these, no.
What's that called?
Blue Yeti, it's the pro version. But
It's they're 150, maybe 200? Or is that,
that's for the normal version. I think the Pro is like 300.
is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's basically the professional version of this
Yeah.
thing. So plugs in with USB. This pretty much does both what this does and this box here. It's all of that in one little package. And that's why if you buy an expensive one, I mean, they're better. It does this much better.
Even like a $50 condenser USB microphone would do it, make a lot better, have a lot better sound quality than
Right,
a little bit.
exactly. You could even, I brought these in just for fun, but I mean, you could even use these if your computer has Bluetooth, but you're definitely going to sound like you're on a phone using something like that. To pipe music in, again, you're probably going to want to have a mixer, or you're going to want to record your voice, then go back through and put in the music separately in multiple tracks. But if you're using a mixer, you could just plug in your phone. You can, I like to save my old technology, so you could just use old phones and use those and just keep one of those on your desk with all your music on it. However you wanted to do that, and just plug it straight into the mixer. When it's ready to play, hit play, turn up, brings it into the audio feed. Pretty much everything I have here I bought at Sweetwater or Guitar Center, but usually Sweetwater, which is a really nice thing for musicians in general to have Sweetwater here in town. It's like the Walmart of music, and it's 5 minutes away. I'm going to run through kind of the costs of things just so you guys have an idea, and then we'll mess with some stuff here. The audio interface, this is what converts the analog signal into digital and gets it onto the computer. This thing here I think cost me maybe $120. And this is it's kind of low end, but I mean you could get cheaper, but then you're also getting cheap quality. But about $120, you get a pretty good quality recording coming through here. This mixer, about the same deal. I think it's about $140 maybe. They actually do make mixers that have this part built into it. So you can just take a USB cable, run it out, and you can eliminate this. However, it's not as good of quality. Kind of the same deal with this. When you're cramming everything into one package, the quality gets a little less. But with the mixer, of course you have options for whatever number of channels you get, the more stuff you can pipe in, the more people that could have their own independent microphones, things like that. And the microphone, I believe this one was about $400. The This guy here, the broadcast boom from Sweetwater, is about 110. And then a nice, decent pair of headphones. These are probably about $80, but I probably had them for 15 years by the looks of them. And they still work. They just look bad. But as I said, if you have a computer and $15 for a microphone, you can start there, and then kind of build up from there. I'll start with this. Now, I don't know what we're gonna do about listening to the sound, because all I have is my laptop speakers, and it'll probably sound really bad. Have any of you guys messed with audio recording software? So you guys are all somewhat familiar with it? Okay. I mean, even down, I mean, this is similar to the old little thing that came with Windows 20 years ago, a little audio recorder. It's just a little beefier and got a lot more options, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You can choose where our microphone's coming in at, which I may need to reopen this since I just plugged this in. All right, so we've got our input devices here. The Scarlett, this would be my audio interface. So that would be pulling in what's coming from the mixer. My USB microphone, which would be this guy here, the USB audio device. Realtek would also, actually, I mean, if you don't want to use this, you can use this tiny little pinhole of a microphone that's on your laptop, and that'll be really awful. That's about, no getting around that. So I'm going to select this microphone here, so you can see we're coming in. You should be able to do a decent job just having it sitting on the desk here. You might have to tweak the levels a little bit. The higher you pull up the recording level, though, of course, the more background and room noise you get, and that's going to be a problem. So you want to get it at least, you know, good compromise. You know, if you have to set it up closer or farther, I don't know. You kind of mess with it and go from there. And we'll see. See, we're coming in. You should be able to do a decent job just having it sitting on the desk here. So with a microphone like that, it's going to be a lot tintier. You're not going to get the bass and full quality of your voice, but it does work. Let's see. And I haven't checked the levels on this guy here, so I don't know what we're going to get into here. You don't actually necessarily need that, but it does come in handy. Check, check. Yeah, see, I'm blowing that up there. Check, 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 check. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. So you can definitely hear the, you know, like the beef quality of that is way better. And doing some tweaking here. This has been in my garage for a while, and it's been moved, and all my knobs are shuffled up. So that was real bassy. So you could also pipe in. This is where the Tom Waits comes in. But I don't actually have anything monitoring this, so we're not actually going to hear it until I play back the recording. Testing, testing. The recording. Testing, testing. So that's just coming through my phone. I didn't mess with the levels much. If you had, I have the headphones here, and I could monitor everything that's going on through here right now, but you guys won't be able to hear it, so it doesn't do us any good. But while I'm talking through here, and if I hit play here, I can start pulling it up and I'd hear it coming in and see the levels here and see where I'm at. Not quite sure how to move things around in here in Audacity, but there should be a tool to pick this up and scoot these back and forth.
I can tell you.
Yeah?
Where it says analyze,
Mm-hmm.
below that's that, below it, not in the.
Oh, right in here?
You got the letter I there, right where you're at, right there. Where you just were, below it to the, right there. If you click that, then you can move that track over.
Perfect. So yeah, so if I wanted to scoot the music in a little bit and make it come in after I'm talking here. Testing. Back to recording. Testing. And the amount of tracks you can have, I don't know what the limit is on here. I don't know if anybody here knows, but a lot of that.
Said it was 5. And
5
some
in Audacity?
Videos I've read have said 5 different tracks, but
Okay. The programs that you can buy, you should be able to have 16 plus, but that really just depends on your computer itself, whether it can handle playing all that at once. And but if you plan out a show really well, you shouldn't even need to do things separate, but you do have the luxury of doing that if you're recording from home rather than doing it live. We do ours live, so we have to have everything planned out, and someone's cueing music, someone's, pulling up news stories, and we're getting everything shuffled around in the hour that we're on the air. But the few times that we pre-recorded shows, they sound 10 times better because each of us are actually using one of these and we're not running through Skype. So like in our show, the guy who had the main controls was going through a nice mic like this, sounded great. We were all going through mics like this, but we were being piped through Skype. So we got all like digitized and Skypey. I don't know if you guys have talked on Skype, it sounds awful. So you run into that. But when we were able to do it, pre-record them, it sounded great. We were able to scoot things around. There were no mistakes. So you run into that. You have that benefit.
So if you're going to have multiple mics, do you have to have the mixer board?
Yes. Yeah.
what was your question? Sorry.
If you have multiple mics, do you need the mixer board?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And really, like this one's got 4. They have 4 channels for mics, and then a stereo channel here, which is usually used for plugging in music or something like that. You could even have a second computer piping music in. You don't have to use your phone. Of course, the more channels, the more it costs. And if it doesn't cost more, but you're getting more channels, then you're probably getting a really cheap mixer. So, and a lot of it has to do with the wiring. This is about as technical as I can get about these. If the wiring's done right on the inside, you're not having power touching audio, which creates like sounds, things like that. So the more you pay, the better it's put together, and less chance of that to get hum and other noises like that. And that is another thing to think about. For a while, I was living in a small apartment, and I was in the middle of a building, and it was hot as all get out. And we'd be doing a show, and I'd have to turn my air conditioner off because that's coming in. So I'd look like I do right now, it's sweat pouring down my face, and hoping for the show to be over so I can pop that back on. So the things you have to think about is the quiet of the room. Like I live on Wells Street now. There's sirens nonstop and people making ruckus. So the odds are that I have to wait and do things at night. But you could also just kind of close yourself off into a room in the middle of the house or something like that, or away from that, and do good there. Questions?
That has a feature to cancel out some of the noises I can't do.
Right. The more you dig into these, the more you can go in and you can use the. I'm sure there's some automatic ones that try and do it for you.
This one you just record without music or voice or anything, and it samples that, and then
Really?
goes from there. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that's good.
There's also noise gates
Right. Noise gates are good. Sometimes they don't work too well.
Yeah.
You'll get cut off.
Yeah.
Right. You have to tweak them a bit. I don't know if everybody knows what a noise gate is, but it basically, in layman's terms, figures out what the level of the noise is and cuts it out of the recording. But sometimes that's going to cut out, you know, if your voice or the sound that you're doing gets into that level, it'll snip that off, so you can get cut off and it'll be real jagged. So it works really good when there's minimal noise, but if you've got a ton of noise, which you could see here, let's see if I can zoom in. I want to zoom in the other way. That's not what I wanted. The fact that the line is pretty solid here shows that there isn't a whole lot of noise, but if there was a lot of noise, there wouldn't be just a straight solid line here when I'm not talking. It'd be just like a real thick line, and that's showing you that you've got a lot more ambient sound going on. And then that's where you're going to end up having a problem gating that out, and you probably want to re-record.
Now they also have the it's like a hardware as well. It's like a
Mhm.
sound booth that you can put in front of the mic that
Yeah.
will work better.
Yeah, there's things like that out there too. This can get real expensive if you want to get more and more into it. And like I said, though, the nice thing is that we've got pretty much anything you can imagine sitting over at Sweetwater. So best bet is to get a job there and then get their discount and get everything you need, and then you'll be good. Once you're done with this, and anybody who's used this program might be able to help me out here, but you should be able to export this, mix it down, yeah, right here. So you can mix it down into one file, which then we could upload to, I think,
What format is the file we're gonna upload though?
Wave.
Wave.
yeah,
Okay.
Wave, or maybe AIF, two Fs for Mac, but I think Wave would be the best. MP3 is gonna kill a lot of the quality, and if you put a lot of effort into making it sound great, then that's not really worth it. But it is something to think about. I mean, most of us have, you know, decent internet connections, and I don't know what the connection's like here, but you know, those WAV files can get pretty big, so you'd want to allocate yourself a lot of time, you know, or at least maybe like an hour to upload it, so you don't want to record it right before you're supposed to be on the air. Do it ahead of time, make sure that it's up, because once it's up, then we have to download it to the computer here in order to play it. So that is the downside of doing WAV, but you get the quality. MP3, you could upload it like that, download it like that, but it'll sound a little rough. More questions?
So is one of the advantages of using Audacity, if, like, say you don't have a mixing board, you could take the different elements and piece them together in Audacity and
Right.
mix it down to a file.
Right. If you don't have this, which even this, the downside with the mixer is that once it comes out of the mixer, it's mixed. You don't get the opportunity to do this and move things around. It's coming out in left and right, all smashed together, mixed down. So you gotta definitely know what you're doing here, get those levels nice. And like I label things here, although I've messed my knobs up, but once I get them right, I always make sure I plug everything into those same channels, and I know that these knobs are where they're supposed to be. A lot of times people just write down the levels next to them in case they get scooted, but that way it's always a decent mix, because yeah, once it's on the computer, it's done. They do make more expensive versions of these that don't just have the two left and right inputs here, that have anywhere from 4 to 16, 24 channels. And in that event, everything you record comes in on its independent track, and you can adjust the levels. If one mic's got some extra noise on it, you can trim that down without messing up everybody else's. But then this thing here starts going up into the 300, 400, 4,000, 10,000, you know, and up. So you can get a little crazy with that. But if you're just doing a show with two people, you know, maybe yourself and you're interviewing somebody, this should suffice. Just get your levels good, and then test the interviewer or the person you're interviewing. You know, make sure you test their mic and make sure they're not blowing it up. Get them at a good distance. Some people tend to, I mean, I've been on radio a lot when I was younger, and I'd get terrified of this thing when I'd sit in front of it. And I'd either be back here trying to hide, you know, and not talk very loud, or they'd tell me to come in, you know, and then I blow up the show, and that's no good. So, you know, get them at a good level and just kind of tell them, stay right there when you talk, and talk at the same level. And then you don't have to worry about the fact, you know, this is coming in already mixed down. Any other questions?
Does anybody know if Audacity will interface well with music you already have on the computer you're using it on? Like I use iTunes. Will it interface with that at all?
With iTunes, you're probably not in the way that you're probably thinking. There's that. Well, and I think we have you might be able to help on that. With anything on iTunes, it's streaming. Excuse me. We don't have access to that, right?
Correct. If you're going to use music from iTunes, it's got to be music that you've purchased.
I have purchased it.
Okay.
If you purchased it, I believe you should be able to import that as
Right.
a file.
So you could come up here, file, import audio, and then find that song, put it in here.
Okay.
But I can't speak to whether iTunes or Apple has embedded something in there that makes it so you can't do that.
Isn't iTunes songs you download, they lock, you can only burn the audio or something?
It might be that.
Amazon,
That might be the
I think
case.
it's important from Amazon, like I purchase it from my computer, import that music. I don't know if I've been able to do iTunes or not, because I think it's got like a little lock symbol on it.
Oh, I guess I'll find out.
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
just allowed to steal from YouTube?
That's not.
What do you mean steal from YouTube? Yeah, if anybody has a question, I just want to say, you saw me drag this microphone out there. And I know I'm not being seen, sorry Daniel, but speak up when you ask a question so we can hear it a little
Oh, is
bit
there a mic
better.
out there?
I got like a stage mic out there.
Test.
They actually make, there's several apps where you can actually strip the audio and or video out of a YouTube video from an MP3 down to, or from a FLV or MP3 down to a WAV file.
Well, I mean, again, when it comes to anything, anybody, you know, we will be paying ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and streaming fees, but if you're taking somebody else's music that maybe they don't have it copyrighted,
Right.
and you're taking that off of YouTube, I would more than highly recommend that you get permission.
Oh, I was going to do that.
Yeah, as long as you get permission, I don't think you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, if
But
you have
it's
permission,
just-
you're fine.
Yeah, but it's just don't take stuff without,
Right.
without asking for it.
Let's say you've got a country song from many years ago, and you get it on vinyl, and you get it into a digital format. It's on your computer, and then you wanna just use an instrumental piece of that. And so you use Audacity to create a little instrumental piece, and that's gonna be what you're gonna use in your radio. You know,
You should be
Years
fine.
ago-
You
That's fine,
purchased
well,
you
we're paying
purchased the
fees.
record.
We're paying the fees.
I'm sorry?
We're paying the fees, so that's not a problem.
So all that music that's out
Yeah.
there, we can use pieces of it.
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
that's the point of covering that, so that people don't have to worry about it.
Because I have a huge record collection, so.
I mean, you guys own those records, so
Right.
Yeah, but you do have to turn in your playlist.
Right.
That's a requirement.
Now, what's a good place to get music from? Like anything in the world that you want to just put on your show.
if it's going to be actual like signed recording artists, I'd say maybe Amazon. I think probably they wouldn't lock it as much as the Google service probably locks it. I know Apple's you're probably going to run into that with Apple locking the files, but probably Amazon. Other music, unsigned artists, things like that. I mean, there's SoundCloud and there's all sorts of other there's so much music out there. But I mean, if you're gonna want to, if you're just using it for your show, like background music or a theme song, something like that, check out all the unsigned stuff and get permission from them. But obviously, that's not stuff that's going to draw people in. So if you're looking for music that, you know, from signed artists and popular artists, then yeah, I'd try to do Amazon or something like that.
Or purchase CDs.
What are those?
Stuff to make my wallet cool.
And, you know, and one of the things I'm trying to do is to contact a lot of the alternative recording labels and saying, hey, we're starting this. We want to start building up a library, you know, send us. And there's one, I can't remember, there's one label that's already, I mean, they're sending me emails probably 2-3 times a week with new releases.
Cool.
And I'm downloading those. So I would say also that's one of the things that we'll be doing is, again, developing this library so you can go through that and maybe find the songs or the artists that you particularly want to feature. So
Well,
you don't have to.
That's the other question I was gonna ask regarding the library. It's like, okay, what the hell do I store all this stuff on without losing it in my computer?
Beg your pardon?
What do I store all the music on without losing it on my computer? Is there a database we can access? Is there a database we have to come down here and access?
At this point, I'm just loading it on the hard drive. So it's in an iTunes library.
Okay,
So you'll be able to come over and just dump it into there.
okay. Is iTunes the right way to go though?
That's purchased from iTunes. I don't know. Here we'll be in a better situation because we can just pipe
Yeah.
the songs through.
Yeah, the files
We're
are
not
there.
importing them like this.
Yeah.
So it might not work the same though if they were purchased through iTunes. Here, if we were trying to build a show here,
Right, these are
but
just
live.
CDs that have been purchased and have been pulled or have been
Gotcha.
ripped in from iTunes
Yeah.
via iTunes, and it's all there and it's part of the library.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are they all MP3s?
Wait,
WAV preferably, again.
Mhm.
WAV files you're not gonna get the compression that you're gonna get with an MP3, and you're gonna get a higher
Is there way
quality.
of converting an MP3 to a WAV?
It doesn't go.
No,
You got to know backwards that way. I mean, you can, but once the quality's gone, the quality's
I would
gone.
want to get it into a WAV
I
format,
mean,
so.
what if
Okay.
you've already got music that you've ripped off of CDs and it's an MP3 format, can you still import?
If you
that
didn't
by-
do it 10 years ago, they're going to sound pretty good still. Back when MP3 first came out, though, they were awful. It was horrendous. But anymore, they've tweaked that so much that when they're compressed through MP3, it's done a lot more intelligently, whereas before it was just like one setting for all. So some songs sounded amazing, some sounded awful. A hip-hop song would have sounded terrible. There'd be no bass at all. But anymore, it's not the end of the world if you've got to use an MP3, but preferably WAV.
so if we had to run a show off MP3s, we could.
yeah.
A little note though, if you're using Audacity, it needs an additional file to export an MP3.
Like a plugin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there something when you first go on, what is it? Is it,
It's like a DLL file.
there's something else you download so you
Yeah,
can.
they don't, Audacity themselves is like free, because they're open source freeware. They don't pay the license fee, but you can get the file that has the license on it and download that separately from some other location.
Do you remember the name of that?
I can't remember it. It came up in a window on Audacity whenever I tried to export something,
But
and
you're
I
gonna
just
you wanna export it as a WAV
search for
anyway,
it.
so you don't have to export as MP3.
Or it might actually be import too.
Um,
I just,
No, that's not.
So Audacity won't work with MP3 files unless you get some other thing you gotta go out and purchase.
no, it's a free it's a free file.
Right.
You just go out and,
Plugin.
you just gotta go out yourself and find it.
Yeah, there it
Download
is.
And put it in the right folder.
Okay, what
I
is
don't know what
that?
it's called, do you?
It's called the lame encoder.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Oh, what?
The lame
MP3
encoder.
encoder.
Yeah.
Lane encoder?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I got this right as I was trying to export it.
It's called the lane decoder.
Encoder.
Yeah,
Mhm.
lame encoder.
You said something about submitting a song list or something?
Yes.
Can you go into that further?
Any of the DJs who are gonna be doing, if you're gonna be doing a music show, you know, pretty much strictly music. You have to, whatever music you're playing, you have to submit that list
Okay.
of the
It's like
songs
when we
and of
put
the
it-
artists
When we put it in.
to the station. You will
Like
do
when we put it
that.
on the Dropbox, we have like a Word document saying.
Yep, you could do that. Yeah, but it has to be, that has to be turned in.
Does that include, like he said, if we're just using a portion of a song or an intro?
I'll have to look into that if you're just gonna use that for an
Just
intro
to
for the
be
show.
safe and be, I mean, it's.
Is there a time frame for getting that to you before the show?
I think time code.
I will double check on that,
Like what time?
The other thing is,
but it's best to turn it in when you do it. Turn it in the show.
the other thing is, for those people looking for theme songs, Fort Wayne is chock full of musicians. Ask somebody to write you a theme song.
Yeah, I would highly encourage that to support your local music scene. There are a lot of really good bands out there, and it would be a kick in the pants to do that. So,
You know, pay them
then
20
you're
bucks
getting
for a
something
commission.
that's tailor-made specifically for your show,
Yeah,
and you just gotta make sure to give them credit.
yeah. At the end of the show, just include it in the credits.
But if you copyright, you can get paid, right?
What's that?
So if you do BMI, you can get paid, right? BMI or ASCAP, and
Yeah, what's to say local artists aren't doing that as well, copywriting that music to get paid. I mean, that's the, you know, we don't play music just because we want to do it for free.
And if we're encouraging
What?
local talent, who better than to use for our theme songs than local talent?
so,
Just saying.
the music you were talking about you guys are gonna have here, are we gonna be able to access that from home?
I don't know at this point. You may have to come down here, go through the library, pull it off onto a flash drive, and then
Walk
take it
back.
home and put it in that way.
I'm sure there's a way we can figure out how to get it accessible, but at that point, I don't know whether we're kind of drawing a legal line there of creating a file server for songs for you
Right.
to just download.
I mean, how do you keep that server secure so that it's only the
Right.
DJs that are pulling that off of there without anybody else? And
Right.
yeah,
So if you're coming in here, it's still kind of because you're using songs that were purchased by somebody else. But if you're just using it for the show to be brought back here, then you're
Right.
fine. But if once we put it online and we've got this open,
that's a
Server
different
for-
animal.
right, we're Napstering it at that point.
Yeah.
Well, and at the same point, there's.
Careful, you're dating yourself.
At the same point, there's also the issue of when we broadcast live over the internet, we have to be careful how we transmit.
What do you mean?
Okay, if we're broadcasting a show live over the internet, people will be able to download it live, correct?
No, they're gonna stream, it'll be streamed.
Okay, but.
They
if
can't
we're
really download the
podcast-
stream.
Okay,
And when it comes to podcasts, that was one of the things that was in Julia Meek's workshop that I was unaware of at the time when she said, if you're doing a musical program where it's just strict music, that can't be podcast and
right.
downloaded. But if you're doing a talk show, maybe you've got some intro music or something, that's not gonna be necessary. And certainly, that's where you also run less of a problem if you've got original music that you can get locally, then any of those programs can be stored as a podcast, because there's nothing copyrighted in there.
Well, the other thing is, let's say it's mostly a music show, but it's also an information show. That segment that's information-based could be separate podcast, correct?
I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
Well, now I don't know if I may be wrong on this, but the podcast itself, you should be able to actually stream. I mean, we might be crossing terms here, but you should be able to stream that on the internet fine without
Right, you
breaking
can't
any rules.
download it, but you
But
can
making it
stream it.
accessible to download
Right.
is where it comes
That's-
in, yeah.
that's
So
where
we
it
can
gets
still
into
do the internet stream and the FM stream.
Right.
I thought ASCAP and BMI covered all of that though, so.
They cover that part because we're broadcasting over the internet. But if we let people download it, well, then we're just giving away songs from people. It's no different than some of us. I'm gonna date myself again, but putting a cassette recorder up to the radio when I was a kid
Yep.
and recording songs off of there.
You should do it reel to reel.
Right?
I still have a reel-to-reel.
Me too.
I do too.
I still have an 8-track,
Got one of those too.
but seriously, 'cause it's like, okay, shows has community information on it, you know, or a community information guest, you know, that interview, whatever the topic may be, that interview would need to get put up on the.
I will check with NFCB, the National Federation of Community Broadcasters. I'll put that out there on their listserv. They're really good about, that's, you know, why we joined that group for the station, because they've got a really good listserv. And you can put that out there for all the other community broadcasters and people who've been doing this for 30 and 40 years, much less the legal team at NFCB can say, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do.
Cool.
And I think you're worrying about the wrong thing there, because like the show can be on, you know, click to play it anytime on the website,
Okay,
just not downloadable.
Just not downloadable.
okay,
Yeah,
that's where I was.
can't leave our, you know, and if people figure out a way to do that, that's different, like with the YouTube thing there, but then it's out of our hands legally, we didn't.
No, that was my.
They're gonna
concern
stream it
is
and hold a
not-
microphone up to the speaker or the cassette player. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
that was
We don't
my
have any
concern, is
control
not
over
being
that.
able to access the show, because I know not everybody's
Right.
gonna listen to it 8 to 10 PM. There's gonna be people who are
Right.
gonna catch it later on the
Right.
next week.
And we don't necessarily want people to download it. I mean, it is nice to give stuff away for free, but we actually want them to keep coming to our site rather than playing it at home.
No, that's cool. That's what my concern was being
Mhm.
able to access the show after the fact,
Yeah.
later on in the weekend.
Well, because there are other programs that certainly fall along
Yeah,
that realm, so.
Cool. What I'm hoping is maybe I could do another one of these, but get a nice list of questions from people in the meantime. That way, next time we do it, I can have a structure and know more of what people are going to want to know. I really just wanted to bring a bunch of gadgets in here and talk about them this time around and see where it went. But I
How
think
many
that's a
people
good
are
idea.
thinking about recording at home? Wow, interesting.
I'm planning on doing some of my stuff at home, but most of it in the studio.
Okay.
It's-
Station identification is one question, and then if it's an hour show, is it 60 minutes, or is there a minute buffer on both sides for station identification? Do you guys do station
I could
identification?
I will defer to Ricky to answer that question, since he did plenty of shows on the local NPR station.
It's not just an hour of time. You said how many minutes? 56?
56, something like that, I'm not exactly
You have to
sure.
Yeah.
build in your, because you're gonna be doing public service stuff in between, so all that sort of has to be worked out, so those spaces are there.
When I broke down my show for a map, I believe it came down to 49 minutes of show exactly.
But you had a lot more public service announcements too.
Well, and I also
You know.
incorporated the bilingual factor too.
Yeah, so I mean,
We're
you are,
gonna say 56.
legally, you have to make an announcement at the top and the bottom of the hour, that is an absolute. Or you make space in your show, so maybe you've got, if you're doing an hour-long show, your first, half hour is 28 minutes, 30 seconds long, your second half hour is 27 minutes and 30 seconds long. So when that starts to count, you give us that, we throw that into the playback server, we can immediately plug in there in the middle of the break, you know, or somebody's there live, which is what I hope to have with volunteers, in the booth that can then fade from your song or from your show into either a public service announcement, and then they punch themselves up live and say, you know, it's 2:59 p.m., you're listening to WELT radio coming to you from the Allen County Public Library. You know, we rely on the support of listeners like you, et cetera.
So you would
Now we'll
prefer-
get back to this, now we'll turn back to the second half of the show.
You would prefer somebody does one, station ID for all of them instead of us? And then
No,
we'll give
you could do-
we'll
you
give
could do
2
station
28-minute
IDs.
segments or something?
Huh?
We'll give you 2 28-minute segments and you'll just pop them in?
But you could do your own station IDs, but you may not be able to make you may not be on the clock.
Okay.
You know, but you can certainly say you're listening to da-da-da-da-da, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to announce the time.
The other thing, when I wrote out my schedule, we were padding around the idea of having residents doing station IDs as well in a short message. So that was why I allowed so much gap in mine.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that has yet to be determined. We'll get that all nailed out, but I
It
would
could be
certainly.
two 28-minute segments, part one, part two.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, I mean, the only thing I have is with Julie is Meet the Music, and I think we did, what? Huh?
I don't think I ever heard the whole show. I just got the recording of it and
I
listened to
just
mine.
got the record,
Yeah.
Two, but sometimes
4 songs,
4 breaks.
4 breaks it might have
Like
been.
that show. 'Cause I've done those too, yeah.
Yeah, with the Meet the Music. So now that's their structure for NPR, that's not necessarily the structure for this, it doesn't have to be 4 breaks, it could just be 2 breaks. I mean, some of that, we're still gonna be filtering.
Sometimes, depending on the content you have for the show, you might need to put a couple breaks in there.
Yeah,
Well, and I did 20, 30, and 40, and then everything else was just filler.
yeah, we'll just figure it out. You got a
To
question?
make this easier, for us, could you possibly come up with a short, intro statement and exit statement, sign-off statement that kind of,
If you,
What we
did I give you did I send you a copy of the volunteer manual?
I got that, but
It's in there.
there's an actual statement.
There is there. If you read it, it's in there. Everything you need to know,
It's in that thick-ass manual.
well, right, including how to make, huh?
When Julie was talking, there's it must include this, it must include that, it must include this, it must include that, it must include that. But it's better if it's less than a sentence or a half a sentence long, as
Right.
short as possible. Try to figure out how to get all that must-haves in there. You say you've actually got it written out?
Yes,
Okay,
it's in there.
sorry.
No, it's all right. It's in, but it's in, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It's what I've had questions about, what can we say for sponsorship? It's in there because it's, it's pretty serious.
Getting back to gadgets a little bit.
Yes.
What my vision is to take my laptop, get Audacity on it, and buy a decent USB microphone and do say a 2-hour music program. I'm still thinking about genres of music. Is there a good compromise for a USB mic, say something under $100 that is going to approach professional levels of be that good?
I'm saying, I'm thinking anything under $80 is just going to be a fancier looking version of this. It'll look like this, but on the inside it'll be this.
So it'll still be
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah,
What about Snowball?
yeah. That's another.
Yeah, I record in my van, because the upholstery around it,
Mhm.
Nice.
it's really pretty.
Well, that's made by the same people that do the Yeti, right?
Blue.
The blue, yeah.
But you have the cicadas out.
This is what I use.
when you're there.
It has a headphone monitor port on it too, so you have 0 lag monitoring ability.
What's the brand of that?
Samson,
Samson, yeah, $90, okay,
yeah.
all right.
I've got a microphone. It's an older, used to be used for vocal singing and stuff.
Mhm.
It has the 3 pins
Mm-hmm.
on it.
Basically, there's the setup.
If I were to want to
You can
plug
get
it into my
it'll-
computer, would I need
it
to
has
have
an adapter for
have a box that would
standard
move
mics
from
and
analog to digital?
any sort of-
Yeah.
Okay. Find some like
Yeah.
35 millimeter
It comes with a little tripod. And,
adapter and plug that into
sounds pretty
the
good.
speaker port on my laptop.
There might be an adapter out there that would do that,
Okay.
but even so,
Filter for it too.
you can get, I think $50 is probably as cheap as something like this gets, and you can find one that's got a port on there. I had one, I should have brought it, but somebody had duct taped stuff all over it, and it was just gross looking, so I didn't
I
bring
hate
it.
it when they do that.
Yeah,
Duct
yeah.
tape is not meant for everything.
No, nothing really. Makes things gross.
Those Focusrite
Ducks.
are really clean. The Focusrite is really clean.
It is,
I have
yeah.
Focusrite Scarlet 4-channel,
Yeah,
and much better than the M-Box 2, which I thought was a piece of junk.
I agree. Yeah, I've had great luck with this Focus right here. Once you get it tweaked the way you want it, it's beautiful, and it is pretty low cost, for the quality that it does. M Audio is where you're going to get the really cheap stuff, the $50 thing, and those are really hit or miss. Huh?
Say, where
M Audio is a brand.
Okay.
Focusrite, that's what this is the brand of this. So anything M Audio is going to be definitely cheap, but it is going to be what it is. And they're usually plastic. This thing's a tank. I've probably dropped it a few times.
What's
And,
the cooling ratio on that?
What's that?
Cooling ratio, how hot does that thing get?
Doesn't get hot at all.
I've never felt that thing get warm.
Okay. I'm just asking, because, you know, between electronics and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so used to everything conducting so much heat. Trying to find a platform that won't catch on fire with heavy use.
The beauty of the Focusrite again is a lot of models you can actually hear what you're putting in before, with an M-Box, you can't hear it.
Yeah, there's no good monitoring with that.
You can't adjust anything to what's going on.
Right.
But I had, when I did my first CD at home, I had a mixing board
Mm-hmm.
and a Focusrite. I did all my compression and limiting with a little plug-in called Isotope Ozone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't need to spend a huge, I spent way too much money on Pro Tools that I didn't really need. But, yeah, it's awesome. It took a year to learn it. But, you know, I liked the idea of knowing what was going in and having it as clean as possible rather than
Having to
what a
clean
lot
it
of
up.
studios do now is they record flat channels of music or vocals, and then they try to rely on plugins to fix it all
Right.
afterwards. And that, to me, is not the way you do it.
No, definitely. For those of you who are, I mean, most of you guys seem to want to do it at home. It's a great idea because it is nerve-wracking to do this stuff live. And you can really, I mean, if you can get a quiet place in your home, or not even just quiet, just away from other people, and just sit there and you might feel silly, but record a fake show, move things around, see how, you know, what works the best for you.
I went to Walmart and bought those mattress foam things that
Yeah.
have a bunch of geometric designs on
Hmm.
them.
The eggshells or something else?
It had
I know what you're talking about. It's
different
like
circular
a
and all kinds of stuff, and I popped them on the wall. I put rugs on my wall, so that when I walked in, and then you just have to record and listen to it after the fact to see what you did, how
Mhm.
that affected the overall sound.
Hmm.
And, you know, as long as you don't have sirens in the background and stuff like that, you know, you can keep things pretty quiet.
Hmm.
I like the van idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that'll definitely get you more comfortable, and then if you do something live, you got a little bit of experience under your belt, and but you definitely do have a lot more ability to make a really clean show and tweak things around. But yeah, I'm thinking if maybe we can, he left, set a date again, and if maybe just on the Facebook event, people throw questions up there, and then I can have all the answers prepared that I've got. Maybe I might bring in some speakers so we could record some stuff and actually monitor it.
I'm thinking once you actually have a chance, people have an actual chance to try recording something at home, once we actually are starting to feed content into the station, then you'll probably have a lot more questions.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I'm gonna go take a trip to Sweetwater.
I love taking trips to Sweetwater. You guys ever eat lunch there?
Yeah.
It's good.
Have you ever had lunch where?
Sweetwater.
No, I haven't.
You been to Sweetwater?
Once, but that was at an older location.
Oh, no, it's like the Fort Wayne Google. It's,
Gotcha.
there's a slide.
I heard
There's,
it's like its own little city over there.
yeah, you really don't need to go anywhere else. You can kind of just stay there.
Eating lunch at Parkview Hospital North.
Gotcha. Now that I have done.
Right. Yeah.
Who here all has downloaded Audacity already? Okay, about a third to a half, not bad.
There's some other options out there too. This one seems to be pretty legit.
Well, and this seems to be the one that Eric's pretty set on going with for the station as a whole. So
Yeah,
that's a
and that'd be nice if you want to come in here. It's an easy transition.
Well, also because Because even for the shows that are recorded live in the studio, we still wanna record them on here for the website.
Your home, right?
Wait, say that again?
For the shows that are done live here at this studio, we also wanna use Audacity in studio to record for the website.
Yeah.
So that's why
Right.
we had to come up with something that was universal.
Are there any technical restrictions as far as downloading Audacity? You need to have a certain capacity on your computer to be able to use it, or?
I'm not sure what those tech specs are. If I was on the internet here, it'll tell you if you go search for it. If you have a computer that was made in the last 5 years, I think you're okay. Anything older than that,
Created a special drive on my computer for all that stuff.
well, see, it's the program itself shouldn't eat up much at all. But once you start recording stuff and you're recording as waves,
It's better to have your own dedicated drive on
Yeah.
the computer where all that stuff can
A
go.
terabyte drive would also probably help too for
Mhm.
storage. That way you're not bogging down your own computer with it.
hmm
A standalone hard drive.
yeah, because if you've got a show that's got several tracks on it, when you export it, it's just one big wave, and that's already going to be pretty large. But then you got to think about all the files that are still there. That's 10 minutes times 10 tracks of full wave, or 50 minutes. So you're definitely eating up a lot of your computer space. But so a nice little external hard drive would do the trick.
So, speaking of archaic CDs, I brought 5 of my CDs that I just finished.
Cool.
Anybody that wants one can have one. You can also get it on Amazon and other stuff. And we just did a music video. That was an interesting process, but you can handle that if anybody wants it.
Anybody else?
What's that?
I guess that's it.
I guess that's it.
Anybody else?
I know.
Alan?
Yeah. Thank you.